The market was alive with voices, every corner filled with strange sounds, smells, and colors. Aliens from many species moved through narrow paths, selling food, metal parts, cloth, and things that looked like they came from other worlds. Baskets of glowing fruits hung in the air. Steam hissed from cooking pots and the ground shook when a heavy beast passed by pulling a cart. In the middle of all this noise, one figure walked slowly, a human man. He was not a trader. He was not a soldier. He looked like an ordinary traveler. His clothes simple, dusty from the road. But what caught the eyes of one old alien woman was not his face or his clothes. It was the small shining ring on his finger. The ring was plain silver, old, worn by time. But when the sunlight touched it, a strange shimmer passed across its surface, like something alive hiding in the metal the human didn't notice. To him it was nothing special, just a family memory. Something he wore without thinking, but to the old alien woman, the sight of that ring was like a spark striking dry wood. She froze where she stood, her thin body trembling, her eyes wide, her breathing sharp. She dropped the basket she carried, the fruit inside rolling across the dusty floor. Her voice cracked as she whispered words almost no one could hear. No, it cannot be. Not again. The human turned, confused. He saw her staring, her wrinkled hands shaking, the basket forgotten at her feet. He frowned and asked gently, "Are you all right, Elder?" But she did not answer. Her eyes were fixed on his hand. The crowd noticed. Two whispers ran through the market like ripples on water. Aliens slowed their steps, curious. Some leaned in. Others pointed. No one understood why the old woman looked as if she had seen a ghost. Finally, she raised her trembling hand and pointed, her voice louder now. "That ring, where did you get that ring?" The human blinked, surprised by her sudden question. He glanced at his hand, at the silver band that had always been with him. "This," he said. "It was my father's, and before that, his father's. It has always been in my family." The old woman shook her head wildly, her eyes filled with tears. "No, no, it cannot belong to you. It cannot be passed through humans. That ring belongs to one who vanished long ago, to one who made a promise and never returned." The market grew silent, the voices of traders and buyers fading. Even the sound of beasts moving stopped. All eyes turned toward the human and the old woman. The human felt a cold unease crawl into his chest. He looked around and saw dozens of strangers watching him, their faces holding confusion, fear, and something deeper, something like awe. He whispered back, "What are you talking about? It's just a ring." The woman shook her head again, more forceful now. "Not just a ring, no, that ring carries a story older than you, older than me, older than most in this market. I never thought I would see it again, yet here it is, shining, on the hand of a human." Her words spread quickly through the crowd, carried by whispers. "The ring, the lost ring, it has returned." The human felt his throat tighten. He wanted to leave, to walk away from these staring eyes. But something in the old woman's gaze kept him there. She was not simply shocked. She was afraid. Deeply afraid. She stepped closer. So close he could see the scars across her skin, the deep lines carved by years of sorrow. She whispered low enough only he could hear, "If that ring is truly what I think it is, then you are in great danger, human. You should not show it here, not in front of them." Her words sent a chill. Through him, he clenched his fist covering the ring, but it was too late. Too many had seen it. The silence of the market was heavy. Every breath felt like thunder in his ears. The old woman's hand shook as she reached out, not to touch him, but to point at the narrow alleys leading away from the crowd. "Come with me," she said, her voice desperate. "Before they come, before the wrong ears hear what I have seen." The human hesitated. He didn't know her, didn't trust her, yet the fear in her voice was real, and the eyes around them felt heavier with each second. He nodded slowly, hiding his hand deeper into his cloak. Together they moved quickly, slipping away from the staring crowd, but the whispers did not stop. The story was already spreading like fire in dry grass. The human did not know it yet. But this simple market encounter, this single question from an old alien woman would change his life forever. The human walked beside the old alien woman, his steps uneasy, the market's noise now behind them. They entered a narrow alley where shadows stretched long across the walls. Here the air was cooler, quieter, but the silence pressed on him heavier than the crowd had. He looked at the woman's face, lined with age and worry. Her eyes darted from side to side as if expecting someone to follow. Her hands trembled as she clutched her shawl tight around her shoulders. Finally he spoke. "Why are you so afraid of a ring? It's just metal. Just something my family gave me, nothing more." Her eyes snapped to his, sharp and full of fire. "Nothing more?" she whispered harshly. "Do you even know what you carry? Do you even understand the weight of it? That ring is not just a piece of metal, it is a symbol, a promise, a memory of a man who once stood against empires, a man who was not supposed to vanish." The human frowned, confusion tightening his face. "A man? You mean another human?" The old woman nodded slowly, her voice cracking. "Yes, long ago, before your kind were known across the stars, before humans were spoken of as anything but rumor, one came here. He wore that very ring. I was only a child, but I still remember. The day he stood in this market, he spoke words that gave my people hope. He swore to return and we believed, but he never came back. The years passed, generations died and hope withered. Until today, when I saw you, a stranger with his ring on your hand." The human's chest felt heavy. His heart beat louder. The idea was absurd. How could his family heirloom be connected to someone from centuries ago? "That's impossible," he muttered. "My father told me it was passed down through our line. His father wore it before him, and his before that. Nothing else. No story, no prophecy." The woman's lips pressed tight, her voice low. "Perhaps your family carried it without knowing. Perhaps they did not tell you because they did not believe, but I know what I saw and the others in the market saw too. Do you think they will forget? No, they will not. Already the whispers are running through the streets. Already the wrong ears are listening." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration mixing with fear. "Why would anyone care about an old story? Why would anyone chase after me for a ring? It makes no sense." The old woman stopped walking, turning to face him fully, her eyes deep pools of sorrow. "Because some still believe and others fear what it could mean. If you are tied to the promise, then you are tied to the prophecy, and those who rule now do not want that prophecy to awaken. They would rather crush the memory forever than let it rise again." The human swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Prophecy? What prophecy?" Her hands tightened on her shawl as if holding herself together. "That the one who wore the ring would return, and with him the lost will rise, the broken will be mended, and chains will be shattered. For my people, that ring is hope. For our rulers, it is danger. Do you understand now why I tremble? You are not just a traveler anymore, not in their eyes." He stared at her, words failing him. He wanted to laugh, to deny everything, but deep inside he felt the weight of her fear pressing into him, and the memory of the silent market, of all. Those eyes staring, of the whispers like waves, would not leave his mind. They kept walking until they reached a small door carved into the wall of an old stone building. The woman pushed it open and beckoned him inside. The room smelled of herbs and dust. Shelves filled with jars and scrolls lined the walls. She closed the door quickly behind them, her shoulders sagging as if relieved to have escaped unseen. She pointed to a chair and said softly, "Sit. There is more you must hear." The human sat, his hands folded tight, his thumb rubbing against the ring as if it might answer his questions. He spoke carefully. "If what you say is true, then why? Me? I am no hero, I'm no soldier, I'm just me." The woman gave a sad smile, her voice quiet but strong. So was he, the man who came before. He was no king, no commander, just a man with courage enough to stand when no one else would. Perhaps that is why the ring chose him. Perhaps that is why it now rests on your hand. He shook his head, disbelief burning inside him. "Rings don't choose, people do. And my father gave it to me because he trusted me, not because of some prophecy." Her gaze lingered on him, long and heavy. "Maybe so, but soon you will have to decide whether you are only a man with a family ring, or a man who carries the hope of a people. You may not want the choice, but it is coming, and faster than you think." At that moment, a faint noise echoed from outside. Footsteps, voices, heavy and searching. The woman stiffened, her eyes wide. Again, she whispered urgently. "They've already come, they've followed us." The human's heart jumped, fear racing through him. He looked toward the door, shadows shifting under the crack. The whispers in the market had moved faster than he imagined. The old woman clutched his arm tightly, her voice a hiss. "You must not let them take the ring. No matter what happens, you must not." The human felt the metal against his skin, suddenly heavy, suddenly alive with meaning he didn't want. Confusion filled his mind, but beneath it, something else stirred, a question he could not push away. What if she was right? And in that moment, the confusion became more dangerous than any truth because he realized he was now trapped in a story he did not understand, and there was no easy way out. The small room shook faintly as heavy footsteps passed outside. The old alien woman and the human sat in silence. Every sound from the street made their hearts beat faster. The woman's hands pressed against her mouth, praying the strangers would not push the door open. After a long moment, the noise faded. The footsteps moved away. The human let out a slow breath he had not realized he was holding. "They were looking for us," he whispered, his voice dry. The old woman nodded, her eyes dark. "Yes, and they will keep looking. You must understand, this ring is not just metal. It carries a story we were forbidden to tell, a story erased from the records, a story they fear." The human leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, confusion still clouding his thoughts. "Then tell me. I deserve to know. If I'm already caught in it, I need the truth." Her gaze held him, searching his face for strength. She lowered herself onto a low stool, her hands folding together, her voice soft and trembling but filled with memory. "Long ago, before your people were known, before the empires rose to power, there was a war on our world. My people were starving, our cities falling. No one believed we would survive. Then a ship fell from the sky, broken and burning, and from that ship came a man, a human. The human's brow furrowed. The words felt unreal. A human, that long ago?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, I was a child then, but I still see it when I close my eyes. His ship smoking in the valley, his body wounded, yet he walked into our village with courage. He wore a simple ring on his finger, the same ring you now wear, and when he spoke his voice was unlike any we had ever heard. Strong, steady, filled with fire. The human listened, his heart thudding. She continued, her words painting the picture. He fought beside us, not for land, not for power, but because he could not stand to see cruelty. He taught us ways to resist. He gave us hope when we had none. We began to believe we could win even against impossible odds, and then he swore something. He swore he would return when we needed him most. He promised his ring would carry his word across generations." Her hands trembled as she spoke, her eyes glistening with tears. "But one day, he vanished. No one knew how, no one knew why. Some said the enemy captured him, others whispered he was taken by the stars. All we had left was the story and the memory of the ring. The leaders of the new rulers declared it a lie. They said the promise was dangerous. They ordered all who spoke of it to be punished, and so the story became forbidden. A tale only whispered by the old, a dream buried in silence." The human leaned back, his mind spinning. "And now, because of this ring, they think I am tied to that promise?" The woman's eyes burned with intensity. "Yes, they fear you might awaken the hope they buried. They fear you could remind my people of what was lost. To them, you are not just a man. You are a spark that could set fire to their control. That is why they will not stop until the ring is gone, until you are silenced." He swallowed, his throat dry, his hand clenched around the ring. "But how could my family have it? My father gave it to me. He never said anything about this. He only told me it belonged to his father before him." Her voice grew softer, heavy with thought. "Maybe your bloodline is tied to him. Maybe the man who vanished was not lost at all. Maybe he lived long enough to pass the ring down, to carry the promise into your family. Or maybe the ring found its way to you by fate. Either way, you carry something greater than yourself." The human shook his head, anger and fear mixing. Inside, I never asked for this. I never wanted to be part of some prophecy. I just wanted to live my life." The woman reached forward, her hand resting lightly on his arm, her touch gentle. None of us choose the weight we carry, but sometimes the weight chooses us. You cannot run from it now. Not when they already know who you are. A long silence filled the room. Only the faint hum of the market outside reached them. The human stared at the dusty floor, his thoughts tangled. He wanted to throw the ring away, yet the idea of leaving it behind made his chest ache. Finally, he lifted his eyes, his voice firm though quiet. "What do they fear will happen if I keep this ring?" Her lips pressed thin. "They fear the prophecy, that the one who carries the ring will awaken the lost vault, a place hidden deep in the mountains, sealed since the war. They say it holds weapons, knowledge, and a light strong enough to free. My people, if the vault is opened, the rulers will lose their chains on us." The human's breath caught, his mind filled with images of hidden doors, forgotten caves, and secrets buried in stone. He whispered, "And you think I am meant to open it?" The woman's eyes filled with both hope and sorrow. "I do not know what fate means, but I know you are the first to appear with the ring in generations. I know you are human, like the one from long ago, and I know the whispers have already begun. Whether you believe it or not, you are the beginning of something, and once it begins, there is no turning back." The human sat in silence, the ring pressing against his skin like fire, the weight of her story heavy on his shoulders. He felt the walls of the room close in around him, the world outside no longer just a marketplace, but a battlefield he had stepped into without knowing. And deep in the shadows outside, two dark figures waited, their eyes fixed on the door, listening, waiting, ready to move the moment the human made his choice. Outside the small stone house, the street looked calm. Merchants still shouted their prices, children still ran between stalls, and beasts pulled carts through the dust but hidden among the flow of life. Shadows moved with quiet purpose. Two cloaked figures lingered near the corner, their faces hidden under dark hoods. They did not speak. They only watched, their eyes fixed on the closed door where the human and the old woman sat inside. The crowd gave them space without knowing why. Some people simply felt uneasy near them. Others turned their heads away as if sensing danger. Inside, the human felt the unease in his chest grow stronger. Though he could not see the figures, something in the air told him he was being watched. He shifted in his seat, his fingers tightening around the ring. "Someone is out there," he whispered, his voice low. The old woman nodded grimly. "I know. I can feel them too, the watchers. They are always near when forbidden words are spoken. They listen for the prophecy, they listen for hope, and when they hear it, they strike." The human frowned, his pulse racing. "So what happens if they come in? Do they take the ring? Do they kill me?" Her eyes closed, her voice heavy. "If they cannot take the ring, they will take your life. To them you are nothing but a threat, a symbol of rebellion, a spark that must be crushed before it spreads." The human stood quickly, the chair scraping against the floor. "Then we can't stay here. If they know I'm inside, they won't wait long." The old woman struggled to her feet, leaning on the wall for balance. "You are right. We must move. But carefully, if they see you panic, they will strike faster, together." They opened a small back door that led into a narrow passage. The walls were damp and smelled of earth. Torches burned faintly along the stone. The old woman led the way with surprising speed for her frail body, her steps sure as if she had walked. These paths many times before, the human followed close behind, glancing back now and then, but the shadows seemed to follow. Even down these hidden alleys, he could not hear footsteps, yet he felt eyes on his back. At one turn, the old woman pressed him against the wall, holding a finger to her lips. He froze, and through a crack in the stone, he saw them. The two cloaked watchers standing silently scanning the street. One of them lifted a small device to his mouth, a faint mechanical whisper carried in the air. "The target is here. The ring has been seen. Orders?" The human's stomach tightened, his breath caught. He looked at the old woman, but her face was pale and grim. She pulled him further down the passage, her voice barely a breath. "They know. They will not leave now. They will hunt until you are caught. The passage ended in a stairway leading up into the back of another building, a warehouse filled with crates and cloth. The woman pulled him behind stacks of goods. They crouched in the shadows, the human's chest rising and falling. Fast, he whispered. How many of them are there? Too many, she answered. These two are scouts. But when scouts report, soldiers follow. Once they arrive, the entire district will be locked down. No one enters, no one leaves. They will search until they find you. The human rubbed his temple, frustration burning in him. Why me? Why now? I didn't ask for any of this. I don't even know if I believe your story. The woman's eyes softened, but her voice remained steady. Belief does not change what others see. To them you are already the story, already the danger, and the ring will not let you hide. It shines like a beacon to those who know its meaning. Suddenly the sound of boots echoed outside the warehouse, heavy, many. The human and the woman crouched lower, holding their breath. Through the wooden slats they saw armored figures march down the street, their weapons strapped across their backs, their visors glowing faintly red. The watchers had called reinforcements. The human whispered, "We're trapped, aren't we?" The old woman shook her head. "Not yet, I know paths they do not, but you must trust me, you must not let fear freeze you." They crawled along the back of the warehouse, slipping through a small broken door. Outside, they entered another alley, this one darker, with tall walls and no windows, only a thin line of light above. The smell of damp stone filled their lungs. The human's eyes darted back and forth. The ring felt heavier on his hand with each step. He muttered, "They're closing in, I can feel it." The woman glanced at him, her tone sharp. "Then you must make a choice soon, human. Either you hide forever, or you stand and face what this ring has brought to you." He stopped walking, anger rising in him. "How can I stand against shadows I don't even understand? I don't know this prophecy, I don't know your people's pain, I'm just one man." Her eyes locked on his, fierce despite her frail body. "So was the first one, the man who came before, he was just one, but he lit a fire in us you carry. The same chance, but whether you light it or not, that is for you to decide." Before he could reply, a noise split the alley, the sound of stones scraping. A hidden door in the wall slid open, and one of the watchers stepped out, tall, cloaked, eyes burning like coals under his hood. The human's heart leapt. The watcher raised a hand, his voice cold and mechanical. "Surrender the ring, human, or bleed where you stand." The alley closed in around them, shadows tightening like a noose. The human felt the old woman's hand grip his arm, her whisper urgent. "Do not give it to him, no matter what. Do not." The human stared at the watcher, fear pounding in his chest. But something else stirred beneath it, something that was not fear, something that came from deep inside, a strength he did not know he carried. And in that moment, with the shadows closing, he realized his life would never again belong only to him. The alley felt too narrow, the air too heavy as the cloaked watcher blocked their path. His shadow stretched long across the wall. The human's hand tightened into a fist around the ring. The old alien woman's grip on his arm grew tighter, her eyes never leaving the figure before them. The watcher's voice was calm but cold, each word heavy like iron. "Give it to me, human. The ring is not yours to wear. It belongs to powers greater than you. Hand it over and you may walk away." The human's throat tightened. Fear pressed against his ribs, but anger rose to meet it. "This ring is my family's, passed, from father to son. I will not give it to someone hiding in shadows." The watcher tilted his head as if studying him. "Your blood means nothing. Your family means nothing. You are a mistake, carrying something you do not understand. Hand it over before you bring death to yourself and those who shelter you." The old woman stepped forward, her thin body trembling but her voice sharp. "You call him a mistake, yet you tremble at the sight of him. You fear the prophecy. You fear what he may awaken. That is why you hide in alleys and shadows, is it not?" The watcher's silence was answer enough. His hand twitched near the weapon on his belt. The human's pulse quickened. His mind raced. But before he could speak, a sudden noise broke through the tension. The sound of armored boots approaching. Fast, more soldiers coming. The watcher stepped back into the shadows, his voice drifting like smoke. "You cannot hide, human. The ring will find its place whether you live or not." Then he vanished, as if melting into the wall itself. The old woman exhaled shakily, her knees nearly giving way. "They will not stop now. You must know that. You are marked." The human rubbed his forehead, his chest heavy. "I don't understand. Why me? Why my family? What connects us to your legend?" The old woman hesitated, her lips pressing into a thin line. Finally, she said, "Perhaps it is time you hear the truth. Your story and ours may be more connected than you realize." They hurried down another narrow street, weaving through back paths until they reached a crumbling courtyard. Broken statues lay in pieces, vines crawling over ancient stone. The place smelled of dust and memory. Here the woman stopped, her voice low and steady. "Long ago, when the human first came, he did more than fight beside us. He gave us a piece of himself. A bond stronger than words. I was too young to understand then, but later I learned he loved one of our kind. He gave her that ring as a promise, a vow that he would return. And when he vanished, she kept the ring until her dying day. She said it belonged to his bloodline, to his sons, to those who carried his spirit. And then the ring was lost. Until now." The human froze. His breath caught in his throat. "Are you saying that my family could be descended from him? From the human who came here?" The woman nodded, her eyes glistening. "Yes, it is possible. The connection is not just to the ring, but to you. Your blood may carry his promise, his courage, his destiny. That is why they fear you, because they see not just a man, but the return of what they tried to erase." The human staggered back, his mind reeling. His voice shook. "No, it can't be. My father never told me. My grandfather never spoke of this. They lived ordinary lives. They knew nothing of this world." Her gaze softened. "Perhaps they did not know, or perhaps they chose silence to protect you. Sometimes the past hides itself until the moment it is needed." The human looked at the ring again, its surface catching faint light even in the shadows. For the first time he wondered if it was more than metal, if it truly carried something living inside. A weight beyond memory. The woman placed a trembling hand over his, her voice a whisper. "Do you feel it? The pull in your chest? That is not fear alone, that is the bond calling to you. The same bond he once carried." He swallowed hard, his heart racing, and though his mind screamed to deny it, deep inside a spark answered, faint but undeniable, as if the ring itself heard her words and agreed. Before he could respond, the sound of boots filled the courtyard. Soldiers poured in through the broken gates, their armor black, their visors glowing red, weapons raised. The watchers had called them, and now there was no escape. The human stepped back, pressing the woman behind him, his fists tight, his voice low. "They won't let us leave, will they?" The old woman shook her head slowly. "No, but this is the moment, human. The moment you choose who you are. Either a man running from shadows, or the blood of the promise, the one who carries hope." The soldiers spread out, surrounding them. Their leader stepped forward, his voice booming. "You wear what does not belong to you, human. Surrender the ring and we may let you live." The human looked at the old woman, her eyes filled with both fear and faith. He looked down at the ring and then at the soldiers closing in. His body trembled, but inside, something hardened, a choice forming like iron. "I can't give it to them," he whispered, his voice more to himself than anyone else. "Not if it means erasing everything he fought for. Not if it means breaking the promise." The leader barked an order. The soldiers raised their weapons. Light flashed along. Their blades, the human clenched his hand, the ring glowing faintly now as if alive. The soldiers stepped closer, but in that moment, the human no longer felt like a man lost in confusion. He felt connected, tied to something larger, something ancient, and for the first time, he understood why they feared him. The courtyard was filled with red light from the soldiers' visors. Their shadows stretched long against the broken walls. The human stood in the center, the old woman behind him, the ring glowing faintly on his finger. The air was thick with silence, the kind that comes before violence. The leader of the soldiers stepped closer, his armor clinking softly, his voice strong and sharp. This is your last chance, human. Surrender the ring, do it now, and perhaps your death will be quick. Resist, and you will beg for mercy you will not receive. The human's chest tightened, his breath heavy. Fear clawed at him, but something stronger held him in place. He turned his head slightly, his eyes finding the old woman, her frail body trembling, but her gaze steady, filled with faith. Her whisper reached him like a thread of strength. Do not give it to them, no matter what they say, no matter what they promise. The ring must not fall into their hands. The soldiers began to circle, their weapons humming with energy. The human felt trapped, his mind spinning. He thought of his father, of his grandfather, of the quiet way they had carried this ring without ever telling him its truth. Maybe they had been protecting him, or maybe they had been waiting for this moment. His throat was dry, but his voice came out steady. This ring is not yours to take. It is mine, and I will not give it to you. The soldiers stiffened, the leader's eyes narrowed behind the glowing visor. Then you have chosen death. He barked an order, and the soldiers moved forward. The human felt the old woman's hand on his shoulder, her voice urgent. You must run, human, you cannot fight them all, not yet. But his feet did not move. Something deep inside anchored him, as if the ring itself refused to let him flee. His heart pounded, and then, as the soldiers closed in, the ring flared. Light spilled across the courtyard, a silver glow that pushed back the shadows. The soldiers froze, their weapons shaking in their hands. The leader shouted, Hold your ground, it is only light, only trickery. But even his voice wavered. The human stared at the ring in disbelief. It pulsed with warmth against his skin. Like a heartbeat not his own, he felt strength rising in him. A force he did not understand, but it filled him with courage, with clarity. The old woman gasped, tears in her eyes. It responds to you, just as it did to him. The first one. It knows your blood, it knows your choice, the leader snarled, waving his hand. Seize him now. The soldiers charged, but as they did, the ground beneath them trembled. Cracks split the stone, and from those cracks burst streams of pale light. The courtyard shook, walls crumbled, dust filled the air. The soldiers stumbled, their lines broken. The human staggered but held his ground. The ring burning bright, his voice rose without him meaning to, loud and steady. I will not run and I will not surrender. If this ring carries his promise, then it carries mine too. The soldiers hesitated, confusion flashing between them. Some stepped back, others tightened their grip. The leader roared, Do not falter. He is only a man. Cut him down. But the glow spread wider, forcing them to shield their eyes. The old woman clutched her chest, her voice trembling. You have awakened it, human. The bond, the vow. It lives again through you. The human's mind whirled. He did not understand, yet he knew this much. He could not back down now, not in front of these soldiers, not with the woman depending on him, not with the story of the one before him burning in his ears. The leader drew his weapon, a blade of crackling energy. He stepped forward through the light, his voice venomous. Enough. Your tricks will not save you. Prophecy dies tonight. The human raised his fist, the ring shining like a star. The two figures faced each other in the trembling courtyard. The air charged with power and fear. The old woman whispered, This is the choice, human. You cannot escape it. Stand or fall. Hope or silence, decide now. He looked at the soldiers, at the leader, at the woman, at the broken world around him, and in that moment, his fear melted into resolve. He lifted his voice, strong and clear. If prophecy dies tonight, then it will die with me fighting, not bowing. The leader lunged forward, but before the blade could strike, the ground split wider. A column of light erupted, throwing the soldiers back. The leader stumbled, his weapon sparking. The old woman shielded her face. The human stood tall in the glow, the ring blazing like fire. The soldiers scrambled to their feet, fear now plain in their movements. Whispers ran through their ranks. The prophecy. It's true. The ring has chosen. The leader roared at them. Silence, he is only a man, kill him. But even his voice cracked with doubt. The human clenched his jaw, staring at the leader, his voice steady as stone. I am only a man. But so was the one who came before me. And that was enough to terrify you then. It will be enough now. The soldiers wavered, Torn between orders and fear, the leader raised his blade again. But in their hesitation, the humans saw his chance, not to fight, not to flee, but to stand, truly stand, as the bearer of a promise, greater than himself. The courtyard burned with light and the choice was made. The human would not give up the ring. Not now. Not ever. The courtyard glowed with silver fire, the broken walls shaking, dust falling from the stone. The soldiers stood frozen in the light, their weapons raised but their hands unsteady. The human stood tall in the center, his ring burning like a star, the old woman behind him, her eyes wide with awe and tears. The leader of the soldiers roared, his voice desperate. "Do not believe this lie. He is nothing, just a man wearing a piece of metal. Cut him down and end this foolishness." But the soldiers hesitated, their fear heavy in the air. Whispers spread through their ranks like wildfire. "The prophecy, it's real. The ring has awakened." Some lowered their weapons, others stepped back, torn between duty and terror. The leader raised his glowing blade high, his armor shining red against the silver light. "If you will not obey, then I will finish this myself," he shouted. Lunging forward at the human did not move back. His heart pounded, but his feet stayed firm, his hand lifted, the ring blazing brighter. The leader's blade struck down, but before it could touch, the light exploded, the energy clashing. With the blade sparks flying across the courtyard, the sound was like thunder tearing the sky. The leader staggered, forced back by the glow, his weapon shaking. The human's voice rose, steady, strong, carrying across the courtyard. "This ring is not yours to claim. It carries the promise of one who came before me, and now it carries mine. You cannot silence hope with fear. Not then. Not now." His words echoed heavy and alive. The soldiers dropped to their knees, some covering their faces, others crying out. The old woman gasped, falling to her knees as well, whispering through tears. "The prophecy lives, after all these years. It lives again." The leader stumbled, rage twisting his face. "No, this is a trick, a lie. You are not him, you are nothing." He spat, but his voice cracked with doubt. The human stepped forward, the light following. Him, each step steady, his gaze locked on the leader. "I am not him. I am not the one who came before, but I carry his promise, and I will not let it die. Not while I live." The leader swung his blade again, but his strike was weaker now. The glow forced him back. His soldiers did not move to help, their faith in him broken. The human's voice grew louder, filled with strength he did not know he had. "You fear me because I remind you of what you cannot control. You fear this ring because it cannot be silenced, but it is not the ring that changes everything. It is the choice, my choice, and I choose to stand." The old woman wept, her hands clasped together. "He has returned, not the same man, but the same fire, the same vow. Our chains will break." The soldiers began to lower their weapons one by one, their heads bowed. The whispers became louder, no longer whispers, but voices rising together. "The prophecy, the promise, it has come." The leader roared in fury. "Traitors, all of you, he is nothing." He tried to strike once more, but his legs gave way, the glow overwhelming him. He fell to his knees, his weapon clattering against the stone. The human stopped before him, looking down, the ring blazing like a sun. Silence fell over the courtyard, every eye on him, every breath held. The leader spat weakly. "Who are you, human? Why do you claim the ring?" The human lifted his hand, the silver glow reflecting in his eyes, his voice calm but unshakable. "Because it is not just my family's past, it is my promise now, to her people, to all who still believe. The ring is more than metal, it is a vow, and I choose to keep it." The courtyard fell silent. Then the voices rose again, louder this time. The soldiers who had come to kill him now knelt, not in fear, but in awe. The old woman bowed her head, tears streaming down her face. "He has answered after centuries. The promise is alive again." The leader lowered his head, his voice broken. "It cannot be stopped, not now," he whispered before falling silent. The human looked around, the glow slowly dimming, but its memory burned in every heart present. He turned to the old woman, his voice softer now. I don't know what comes next. I don't know where this road leads. But I know one thing. I will not run from it, she nodded through her tears, her voice shaking. Then you are truly the one, not because of blood, not because of prophecy, but because you chose to bear it. That is what makes you worthy. The human lifted his gaze to the sky above the ruined courtyard, the stars faint but shining, his chest heavy with fear and hope. He knew this was only the beginning. The enemies would not stop. The fight would not end here. But for the first time, he did not feel alone, because in that single reply, spoken, before soldiers, shadows, and an old woman who remembered he had changed everything,